All right, guys, what's going on? So this is my first official guest on the YouTube channel, and I'm super excited for this one. This is a guy called Yoon Kim. Now, Yoon actually has been in the space for 3 years online, and it's not just somebody who's done sales, right? Multiple different areas. Now, he's worked all different parts of an online business, right? He started as an SDR, then a closer, then a sales manager, then an ops manager, then a VP of ops, then became the COO of closedeals.com, which is a huge company. So he's literally done anything and everything. And within a year, actually produced 2.5 million, whilst being the COO and doing plenty of other things for that company as well. So Yoon is an incredible example if you're looking to make a transition into the high ticket space or simply looking to improve your skills as a setter. Yoon is a proven example to actually figure out how to climb the ladder of success within the high ticket space rather than just remaining a setter as well. So for you guys looking to progress beyond being a setter, this is someone amazing to learn from as far as going beyond and multiplying your skill set. That being said, as well, he did all of this, helping close deals to generate 2.5 million in their first year, whilst actually being an active duty in the Navy. Think about that for a second. Being in the Navy is hard, bloody work, and then doing this at the same time is just another level of commitment. So I'm super excited to discuss this a bit further with you. And now he's got his own company, helping others to make that transition, and is someone that I've learned a ton from, not only as far as what he's learned skills wise, but of course his own personal development too. So yeah, let's dive straight in. So Yoon, if you could, I guess, give us, I know I've given them a somewhat of a background, but if you can kind of fill in the gaps, let the guys know about like where things have, how much has changed for you, really how you made that transition as well. It'll be good to know further. So yeah, take it away.
All right. Thanks for having me, Taylor. So, I graduated high school in 2012, which was 12 years ago, which is crazy to think about now. And I had this ambition of like creating multiple streams of income, making a lot of money. And as a fresh like high school graduate, I was going to college, working at Abercrombie and Fitch, and working selling stuff on eBay, getting involved with network marketing companies, and
Yeah, same.
nothing worked out. Nothing worked out. Long story short, and so 2 years later, I found myself just not happy. I was like, this is not where I thought I would be after I graduated high school. And I thought about, what should I do? And I decided to join the military. And I joined the military in June 2015 with $200 to my name. And all I knew how to do in the beginning was just to save money. And then later on, I invested high ticket into some courses, got into investing, and I was able to make six figures with investing in the stock market after 5 years. So in December 2020, I had right about 140K, and I gave 100K to my parents for them to be able to buy a house, had 40K remaining, and the opportunity came within the investing group that I was involved with. Their influencer, he was actually looking for SDRs, and this is a group that I had to invest 7.5K into getting into. And he was looking for like people who believed in his mission of helping people make money with investing. And so I was able to get involved with him as an SDR. And that was right about like January 2021. So right about 3 years ago. And that basically just got me exposed to this online world of sales, because before that I was just a military stock market investing guy, and the rest has been just kind of history up until now.
Sure. And that's cool because like going from doing investing, being in the military to then going to sales, that's wildly different. Why, I guess, why sales?
So in the beginning I didn't really know that it was sales, right? Because when I first got the opportunity, the influencer that I was working for, he said, "Hey, I just need somebody to be able to help like manage my Discord as well as chat with people to see if they need my help."
Okay,
And
like
so
DM
that's how
setting,
I got
really.
involved. Yeah, that's how I got involved. And if I knew from the very beginning it was sales, I'd be very timid, right? Because like I'm a hard-bred like military guy, seasoned 5 years being on a ship for like almost like 9 to 10 months. Sales was really the last thing, but I was really interested in just making extra money. That's purely the reason why I decided to do that work, to make extra money. So it was never really about like getting involved in sales. I later understood that's the field that I got involved in.
I see. Makes sense. And of course, you've started off as an SDR. Of course, a lot of the people listening here will be either SDRs, potentially closers that want to learn more SDR skills. So, kind of talking at that portion of your career, of course, you've done multiple different positions. What do you think helped you to accelerate your career so much, get to that next level of being a closer so quickly? Like, what did you do within that SDR setter, I guess, periods that helped you to perform so well, get results, and allow you to, obviously climb the ladder?
Yeah, so just so everybody understands, I didn't have the best support. The only thing that we were given is a script and just like a daily like a SDR meeting that we would have. But the thing that I did slightly different compared to other people was within the organization, because like as I got involved more and more with this and I started to make a little bit more money, I became very excited and I enjoyed kind of the work that I did. I began reaching out to top SDRs saying like, dude, what are you doing? And I began reaching out to top closers within the company saying like, hey, and I know you're a closer and you actually closed me when I first got onto the offer. Can I like learn from you a little bit here and there? And they actually gave me some pointers here and there. And they kind of, because I exposed myself to a level of humility, they were actually, and I think generally people are nice people, they're actually just willing to help. And that additional help really helped me with two things: just improve my skills slightly, level number one, and then number two, have them have me in their minds. Number two, that's the second thing. And when the time came to be able to potentially be a closer, they're like, oh, that Yoon guy that reached out, that has a level of humility that I've already helped and had a level of connection with, maybe that's the guy that can, fulfill this role.
That's huge. That's huge. I think that's another thing. It's like sometimes, yes, we look to those outside mentors, whether that's on YouTube, Facebook, all these different guys. But the reality is sometimes they are within your company. They're hitting the performance levels that you want to be hitting, or people that are in different companies that are hitting those levels, simply reaching out and asking for help. Most of the time, we all want to help. I remember some of my best months, and to be able to help someone and be able to improve someone's skill set was an absolute privilege at the
Yeah.
time. I always like doing that. And I'm sure for when you may have been, I mean, did you lead the SDR team eventually or like help others that came into the company as well? So I can imagine you
No,
really helped them. Yeah.
personally for me, and it's something I never really thought about it until you just mentioned it. Yeah, like you're right. Like I was very more of I guess the term is like entrepreneur, right? Like I just learned from within the company and not necessarily from outside of the company. Um, Personally, for me, I never got to that position, because usually the top closers were the ones that trained the SDRs.
I
So
see.
I never really became a top closer for that company.
Right, makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, that's another thing for you guys that are setters right now. The closers, sometimes their input on setting will actually help as well. And don't get me wrong, it may not be 100% of what they say, but just getting bits that work for you and being able to put that into your process will actually make closers even go at bat for you if, like, the hiring manager is looking for their next closer and they're like, oh, who should we look for? Believe you and me, that closer that's top performer and you're speaking with a lot, they're going to be like, oh, pick this guy, give him a shot. Like he's been really working well. You like as long as you show great character traits, people want you to be promoted within that company, right? So
Yeah.
that's can tell that's kind of what you did with having that humility, open mindedness, working crazy hard as well. That made people fight for you. Often your reputation is determined by others and how they fight for you rather than you fighting for yourself too. So no, that's a huge point. And another thing as well, because I noticed with you, Yoon, and a lot of your content is personal development, not just the how-tos and the technical stuff, but personal development. And that's sometimes really underutilized for a lot of setters. And at the beginning, I really underutilized it. I think until I started really personally developing, that's when I noticed a shift in my own reputation, my own results. So like for you specifically, like talk me through that personal development journey as an SDR, as a setter? Like, what for you was like most helpful going through that?
Yeah. So, when I first began, I actually had an identity crisis, right? Because I couldn't figure out who I was. Because here I was, I built up this military identity for right about 5 years at that point, and I've been making YouTube videos, and so I was a YouTuber as well as a military guy. And here I am getting involved with like entrepreneurship and sales. So do I become that closer that everybody needs me to be? And or like who am I? And my girlfriend of like 4 years broke up with me at that time, and so I was just complete like lost in the sauce, and I was a wreck. And luckily, I continued to invest high ticket into mentorship and coaching, where eventually I realized that success in, let's say, high ticket sales, it's not so much like information. There isn't like a secret ninja tactic that closes deals all day long, but it's really the person that you are. And the example that I like to use is, for example, if I wanted to lose weight, there isn't a lack of information out there in the world. I could Google it. There's so many influencers, entrepreneurs online that just create all the free information from your diet, from your exercise, everything that you could possibly want. But why is it that I have a hard time losing weight, or other people have a hard time losing weight? It's not necessarily the lack of information, but it's just what's going on in here. And that's kind of the position that I realized that I found myself in, and why I personally value personal development. And I think it's very kind of like it's not as understood. Like mental health and personal development is very senior to like all the other skills. Because the way I look at it is, if you have high levels of discipline, humility, and like grit, you can succeed at anything that you do, whether it's real estate, high ticket sales, investing in the stock market. But the mistake that I think a lot of people make is they have low humility, discipline, and grit, but they think they just need to do all these different things, and they hop from one position, one role, one niche to another, and just consistently do that.
Yeah, exactly. Oftentimes, if when we look at results, if we only look at external things, then we're never really going to realize that we are part of that problem. Especially when it becomes a pattern as well, we then have to really realize that we are part of that issue. So no, that's immense. And actually, that reminds me of a time when I was at seventh level. They said about it was one of the hiring managers, Chris. I remember he said that because we learned to start with an EPQ, right? So it was be a human first, and then figure out an EPQ, right? And that was the order that we kind of put ourselves from, all the way from DM setting all the way to being a closer. Um, and that's 100% truthful. I remember like when I started, it was all about, oh, what is this line that I could say that sounds really amazing, or how can I sound really cool, and how can I like influence someone to set an appointment. So it's like, for you, when you was actually in the trenches going through it, like what were some things that you were mindful of, or that what you did just to maintain obviously a top level performance, and being able to just like make yourself known as, I guess, that top guy within the company, I suppose externally as well.
Yeah. So the saying, don't chase money, chase like the person that you become along the journey. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
that was actually like it was very unintentional for me. But as I started this SDR journey and I started to progress, I enjoyed this journey. I enjoyed the coaching that I was receiving. And I had like moments of epiphany. It's like, oh my gosh, like I finally understand the next level. And I was just on this journey of personal development. And it's so cliche, but like it's really true. Like the money came along the way. Like it
Yeah.
was for me never about the money, because if I made it about the money, I would not have invested. Because over the last 3 years, I've invested 150K into coaches and mentors. I would not have invested it. It wouldn't make sense, because if it was about money, I would just retain the money. But it wasn't about the money, and it was about me valuing me more than money. And because I valued me more than money, money just became a byproduct. And so the way I maintain that humility is just valuing myself at a higher level than money.
That's interesting because I know for me during my setting career, there were moments that I had where it was all about like, keeping money or just waiting for that set close. I hadn't got a set close in a week or something like that. And it was always, looking for those set closes to keep me going. And then I realized that if I don't put myself first, and obviously at that point, my value is determined on how much I'm making or my performance rather than who I am anyway, right? The identity is not on you at that point. So, like, was there a moment that you had, or maybe several instances that made you think, right, I need to put myself first to do it? Or, like, when was that, I guess, and, for all of your coaching that you've had, what helped you to realize it has to be me and then the money, I guess?
So I would say throughout my time, because I had the right coaches to consistently just keep me in this mindset, I never really strayed away from it. And money was never really the issue for me because I already had a full-time job being in the Navy, and I was doing this on top. So if this didn't work, I was okay regardless. So like money was never much of a pressure for me. It did come about after, last August is when I got out of the military, where I had to like see like, okay, like how am I going to make money? Because I left the military and I left my position as COO to start my own company. I was like, okay, how can I make money? And I gave it a go for right about 1 or 2 months to try and convert deals and make money, and I couldn't. And I was like, why is that? And I realized it's because I made it about money instead of making it about me. And so then I shifted focus, and because I shifted focus, I was able to, get students and start making money. So I never really had too much of that in the beginning, and later on when I did, I was able to correct myself.
Sure. Okay, amazing. And I think the last question I would have is kind of like when you were in that moment of being the setter. One thing you mentioned was like learning from top performers, like learning from those guys. I suppose. What would you say would really be like the value of learning and evolving within the setter role? 'Cause so many people kind of put the setter role down. It's like you evolve as a closer and you work on a lot of your skill sets now. You don't see many setter programs out there nowadays. So like for you, what do you feel like the importance is of developing skills as a setter, to give you that foundation?
Yeah, I would say two things. So number one, closing and setting, you're basically using the same muscles, right? A setting conversation that's basically like, hey, who are you? What kind of help are you looking for? Are you open to having a conversation with us? A closing conversation, in a very simplified nutshell, is like, hey, who are you? What kind of help are you looking for? And are you looking for that help? Would you be open for that help from our organization? And so it's in a nutshell the same muscles that you use, same conversations. So it sometimes people like to make a separation of like you're a setter and you're a closer, but you're basically one and the same thing. So you, as a setter, you're still able to develop that closing muscle perfectly fine, and you can,
Yeah.
from a setter, be a good closer, and a good closer should also be a good setter. And so it's the same thing. And number two, one of the things that I personally realized and that I wish people knew more of, it's a strange thing. Like when you're in a company, typically as a setter, people will say, like sales managers will say, like, all right, go call DM 100 people per day. And you develop that muscle, you develop that skill to do that, which is great. But then later on, when you are, let's say, not in that position anymore, and you're kind of like looking for your next gig, they'll only reach out to an outbound and apply to different positions, different companies, maybe like 2 or 3 a day. And I always found it interesting. It's like, why does it take you being in a company, being told what to do 100 per day, and you do it, but when you are by yourself, you don't do it. You know you're capable. And
Yeah,
so I
it's
wish
huge.
people knew more that like when you're a setter, you're going to do that work. So you might as well do that work for you too. And so you
Yeah.
develop the same muscle for as closing, as setting, success in the industry, all the same.
Exactly. And I think that's where sometimes people keep sales just within their job rather than like make it a whole part of their life, like integration, I guess. And that's so important when you're looking for new roles and you're doing outreach and things like that. Everything applies because sales is just communication. It's not like a separate segment that isn't applied to the real world. It really is. It's kind of all integrated. So no, that's huge, huge point. But yeah, that's it for today, and it's been great having you, Yoon. Lovely and amazing, insightful answers there, and hopefully you guys have found value from it. This is the first long interview episode, so if you guys want more stuff like this, please comment. If you do like the video as well, please feel free to share it if you got something from it. I think more people need to hear this kind of information for sure. And then make sure to subscribe for obviously a lot more content. And yeah, take care. Thank you so much, Yoon.
Thank you, Taylor.